In Our Expert Opinion podcast is brought to you by Saunders Real Estate, the Southeast's leading land and commercial real estate firm, helping clients make bold and informed investment decisions since 1996.
Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of In Our Expert Opinion podcast. My name is Tyler Davis. Today I'm joined by some of our newest members of Saunders Real Estate, Bill Frisbie, Kenneth Chesson, and Brandon DuRant. Guys, how we doing?
Doing good, man. How are you?
Doing great. Doing great. Brandon is here in person, and Bill and Kenneth are on the Zoom link here. So I think we've got the squad together. So just for a little bit of background to our audience, as some of y'all probably know, our firm has expanded into North Carolina and also kind of into South Carolina in a little bit of a different manner, which we'll touch on in a second. So this episode is going to be very focused on the Carolinas and a little bit about these guys, their background, their skill set, services we're going to provide to landowners in the Carolinas. And so just right off the bat, Bill, Kenneth, do you guys want to give some background on who you are, what you've done in the past, how you got connected to Saunders, and where you're based and the types of things you're going to be doing?
Sure. Do you want me to lead off, Kenneth?
Yeah, go ahead, Bill.
Sure. Yeah, I was 15 years at a farmland real estate investment trust called Gladstone Land, acquiring farmland all over the U.S., and most of that was focused in the Southeast, North Carolina down to Florida. About half the deals I was doing were sale leasebacks, where I was effectively acting as the land broker with the seller, the owner of the land. And over the course of that period, got up to about 55 farms that I was working on that were either acquired or sold. So part of those transactions, Gladstone Land has a lot of exposure in the fruit and vegetable arena. So Florida was a big hub, and then up and down the East Coast and the Carolinas as well. And after I left that career there, I called up Dean Saunders. He was one of my first calls to let him know that I had left. And he said, "Hey, we're looking at expanding into North Carolina. Would you have an interest in helping us get that off the ground?" And, over the years, I've done many deals and many projects with the Saunders team down in Georgia and primarily Florida, and always had a great experience with the guys, and jumped on the opportunity. So that's where I am right now. And I'm based in Raleigh. Right now we're focused primarily, Raleigh to the coast, which is for us kind of the primary ag and timber region that we're targeting. So a lot of opportunity out there, a lot of good growers, and we're excited to get things off the ground.
We're excited to have you, Bill. And just thinking back, the first time we met, it was actually at our Saunders Lay of the Land Florida conference years ago. Not at the conference, but at the dinner that evening on the rooftop of 1961 in downtown. And I remember we had sat next to each other at dinner and really enjoyed getting to know you. And, who would have thought several years later here we would be recording a podcast as coworkers, which is awesome. So you never quite know.
Yeah, exactly.
Kenneth,
turns of life, so we're here.
That's right, correct. Kenneth, you want to give some background on yourself? And
Of course. Well, born and raised in eastern North Carolina. I was raised around a family farm equipment dealership based out of tractors and tillage and tools, and that was my babysitting service when I was growing up. I didn't go to a babysitting service. I went to the tractor dealership, and they put me to work. So I've been working with farmers and landowners all my life and getting to know farmers, up and down the East Coast, basically. And I went East Carolina University after I graduated high school, and then I joined Marine Corps, spent 8 years in the Marine Corps, and did public affairs in the Marine Corps, and got a love of photography, videography. So I got into filming hunts and got into the outdoor industry for the past 25 years. So when I was during hunting season, I was traveling the world filming hunts, and when I was in town, I was working at the dealership, and had a couple of friends that had been on me about getting my real estate license because they thought I'd do good at it, and I just put it off. So finally, years back, I decided to give it a run, and land was just a perfect fit. And dealing with a lot of the same folks I dealt with over the years, they started coming to me, built the relationships through the tractor dealership, and it met Bill along the way, and Bill was high on you guys, and here we are. We went down to meet you guys last year, and it just felt like family. it was, I was impressed, highly impressed.
Great. Well, it's likewise, and we're certainly happy to have you on the team. And so, Bill and Kenneth are mostly going to be doing brokerage type services in North Carolina, where they're both based. And also on the pod today is Brandon DuRant. Brandon is one of our newest employees here at Saunders. And Brandon, share a little bit about your background, your skill set, what you're going to be doing here at Saunders.
Sure. So a little bit about me. I was born and raised in Orangeburg County in South Carolina, a very rural community of Cope, South Carolina, and
booming metropolis.
A booming metropolis. I don't think there was a stoplight in a 20-mile radius. So it was an awesome place just to grow up. Had spent a lot of time in the woods, in the fields, on tractors, and it was just could not ask to have a better place to get to spend time. But grew up, getting introduced to agriculture with a father who worked for USDA, and then some family friends of ours who owned a farm probably 3 miles down the road from us. I was free labor for them in the summertime and when I was not in school. So spent many days.
Those were your chores.
Those were my chores. 5 a.m. was picking up, dead birds and chicken houses. So, you can't ask for a better way, just an awesome life. But it got really introduced to the ag world and fell in love with farming and agriculture, and just really knew from an early age that is where I wanted to be and kind of where I wanted to spend my career. After high school, went to Clemson, got a degree in environmental and natural resources. Thought early on I was going to get in the environmental consulting world, phase ones, wetland delineations, and all that, and that side just didn't pan out. But went to work for USDA, just like my dad did. Spent 12 years working there, all throughout South Carolina. Then got into the farmland management world, and spent 6.5 years managing those, and then just like Kenneth said, got to know you and Dean and many others here at Saunders, and it just felt like family, and could not have been a better situation for my family. And so we made the transition and move over here. And so some of the different things that we're going to be targeting kind of in the farm and ag space with Saunders is we're looking at obviously different land management opportunities there, whether it be high net worth individuals, private landowners, REITs, trust, whatever entity structure, looking at targeting some of those groups to help them with their needs, from leases to general consulting, whatever it may be, budgeting, accounting, all those good things. So that is one great opportunity there. Then we've looking at capital markets as well, opportunities with maybe the possibility of raising a fund and creating some different value added things there. So we've got a lot of irons in the fire, a lot of great opportunities we're going to explore and continue to grow into this space throughout the Southeast.
And what was it about Saunders outside of some of the family stuff? Talk about just kind of the firm's background, resources, kind of the platform that we've tried to for brokerage, for management, for these other services. What was it that really kind of brought you here for each of you guys?
Well, for me, getting to sit down in the office, that Saturday with you and Dean, and looking at some of the different technology that was available with Atlas and just some other different tools that we went through, those are it's just powerful, what it can offer and how it can just be a complete game changer for not only land management, for brokerage as well with you guys. I mean, it's just awesome tools that are at our fingertips.
Yeah, that's great. For me, it was two things. It was the people and the marketing. Well, the two things that stood out, it was actually many things, but for the people, in my prior role, I dealt with land brokers all over the country and got to see the good, the bad, and the ugly, and learned a lot of good lessons on what to do and what not to do watching those folks. And I got to say that, in all my deals with, and projects with Saunders, I worked with, over a dozen of the Florida brokers and some of the Georgia guys. Just the level of competency and the level of integrity was premium. It was right at the top. So that was very attractive to launch a career with these guys in the brokerage side of things. And also, as I mentioned, the marketing is basically unparalleled when you look at the listing in terms of the quality of the website listing, the PDF, the mailer, sort of that layered approach that Saunders has, and then sort of the deep roster of buyers that they're reaching out to when a listing is initiated. So those two things really stood out to me, and sort of recognized that that'd be a good launching pad to get North Carolina up and running. So we're excited about that.
For me, it was just the professionalism of everybody there, your marketing horsepower, your network of people that are there in the supportive roles, the GIS mapping and capabilities there, and just you're southern based, which I'm familiar with, and it's just you have a great network of brokers that are there to help us along the way, and it felt like home for me.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. We love to hear that, and want to keep. We're doing a lot of good stuff, but we want to keep getting better at all those different things, and it starts with good people. And as we kind of launch this team in the Carolinas, that's what it's all about, is getting the right people on the team. And what's y'all's vision for kind of how we build this team out, right? What do you think the future looks like in the Carolinas, both Bill and Kenneth on the brokerage side, Brandon kind of on the management ag services side? I know you're based in South Carolina, but servicing a wider audience than just that. So could y'all talk a little bit about first kind of the brokerage vision for what the team can look like in the Carolinas, and then Brandon, a little bit more your vision for what the future looks like on the management side and consulting side?
Sure, I'll dive in, and Kenneth, you can chime in as well, obviously. And what we're trying to model is Georgia. Georgia was the first expansion state for Saunders. Bryant Peace got that off the ground in 2017, 2018, and Austin Fisher has been critical in growing that business as well, and the current managing director. And Kenneth and I have had a lot of discussions with both of them in terms of how they modeled Georgia, how they grew it, scaled up. And what we liked was, it was quality over quantity, and that's still the case. They're looking to bring on great brokers, get up to, 10 to 12 really solid guys that know their regions, know their territories, know their land use, have some specialty in that, some expertise in that, and then cross-pollinate between each other and their different regions. So that's effectively what we're trying to do here in Eastern North Carolina. Like I said, it's going to start with Raleigh to the coast, and then we'll head west into the Piedmont region and over to the mountain region. Right now, we're pretty far down the path with a path of development, transitional land broker who's looking to join us. We've had a good meeting with him, and that'd be a good complement to what Kenneth and I do, which is more rural. So out of the gate, I think if we can bring in somebody like that, that'll be fantastic. And the other element that we're working on right now, we've got one gentleman strongly considering joining us on the new referral program platform, Tyler, that you've been developing with Bryant, which is obviously a new program for Saunders, but it might have been in place kind of loosely in the past, but this provides some structure to it, and it allows brokers that are out there that have a lot of relationships in their state and across other states that are looking to semi-retire or potentially fully retire, to still monetize those relationships that they have, and come under the Saunders Real Estate umbrella, the Saunders Land umbrella, and effectively, put brokers like myself and Kenneth in touch with some folks that they know that are looking to sell, and they get a healthy cut of the commission the referral program broker does. So we're excited to expand that as well. But right now, the main focus is adding some good brokers. We've had a lot of good meetings with guys that are really seeing what Saunders has done in Florida, Georgia, now Arkansas. Alabama's obviously coming along great, and so yeah, that's the pathway we're taking right now.
Yeah, and I'm here to help build that strong, diverse team and offer back-end support and mentorship. And with your top-tier marketing that your company brings, I'm trying to help build that powerhouse of Saunders in the Carolinas.
Yeah, and I think, for one thing y'all mentioned is just the diversification of what we can provide from a land brokerage perspective, right? I mean, this conversation today is very agriculture heavy, but the goal is that we can help a landowner, whether it's ag or transitional land or timber or whatever else it is. And so early on, I think that is a priority, is to have guys who have different skill sets and different backgrounds and different geographical territories, like you mentioned. But, we don't want to pigeonhole ourselves into one thing. And, we've been very intentional about that in Florida. We've kind of had to do that in Florida with the transitional land, movement that's happening here, and have taken the same approach in Georgia, and I think we'll take the same approach in the Carolinas, given the amount of growth and things like that are happening there. So, Brandon, what about you from a kind of land management, ag services, business development side? What does your vision look like a little bit moving forward for this your team and your operation here?
So, very similar to what Bill and Kenneth shared. Obviously, as we continue to grow, we're going to add more folks in those strategic locations, so that way we're covering the farms really well for clients, and we've got the right people in place to be out there on those properties consistently, so we're keeping up with what's happening and everything that is going on a particular property. And so as we continue to move outward, we'll continue to grow and add good farm managers and folks, really targeting folks who've got really strong ag backgrounds. That's going to be critical in understanding what is going on a farm and on a piece of property, and how to relate to farm tenants. So as we continue to grow, we will search for those people and add those in those critical areas.
Yeah, I think that's the right approach. And, we want to be in these markets. When we're there, we don't just want to say that we're covering a territory. We want to have boots on the ground in all these places.
We want to be very visible.
From a investment perspective and just overall ag perspective, a lot of our audience is probably Florida and Georgia heavy at the moment, and Arkansas, but so they might not be as familiar with the Carolinas. But can y'all talk a little bit about the ag economy in the Carolinas, dominant crops, opportunities, weaknesses, threats, just some of the different regions and things like that?
Yeah, sure. The farmland versatility, number of crop types, it's pretty remarkable in the Carolinas. There's a lot of institutional interest in acquisitions, and a lot of the investment community already has a presence in the Carolinas. One of the limiting factors, though, is I think the statistic is 93% of, at least in North Carolina, and I would imagine it's more in South Carolina, but 93% of North Carolina farms are under 500 acres. So scaling up from an investment perspective takes time, but then getting to the operating side with the farming community, I can rattle off a quick list I put together here for North Carolina that's pretty interesting. A lot of folks know that the state is number 1 producer of sweet potatoes in the U.S., number 2 producer of Christmas trees, number 3 in strawberries, number 4 in poultry, number 7 in blueberry production, 17 in soybean production, and number 22 in corn production. The corn production's 900,000 acres, give or take. And I mentioned the poultry production at number 4. That results in the state being a grain deficit state, so that the North Carolina is importing more grain than it's actually producing. So that's very beneficial to the farming community in terms of reducing transport costs and getting grain moved around quickly. And then you touched on it earlier about Florida, sort of the net migration trends, and this impacts all land because there's upward pressure, even though you're not in the immediate path of development. Florida's ranked at the top for quite a while, and Texas right behind it, and then the next 2 states are North Carolina and South Carolina. North Carolina in 2024 had slightly less than 400,000 folks that moved into the state, and South Carolina was a little bit above 300,000 individuals moving into the state. I like to joke that South Carolina has become the new North Carolina. So there's a lot of it's similar to the path of Florida that you've seen, and so there's a very vibrant, robust agricultural community, and then net inflow of people moving here. So we're optimistic that there's going to be a lot of good opportunity for our clients to monetize land values that they might have held for a long time in their family, or if they're seeking to expand, go out and get some more ground.
Bill, it's funny you mentioned the Christmas tree thing. I know some folks here in Lakeland who order a Christmas tree every year from North Carolina, and it is the largest tree I've ever seen in my life. I mean, it's a Griswold family-sized tree, and sure enough, I didn't know where it came from, and I asked them where it came from, and they said North Carolina. So grow a lot of trees, it sounds like, and a lot of big trees. So,
Yeah.
Brandon, what about
Yeah.
South Carolina? Kind of a little bit.
South Carolina is very similar to what Bill said. You know, we don't grow as many sweet potatoes as you guys do, but you know, corn is probably the biggest, you know, commodity crop that is growing out there. Poultry is number one in South Carolina. A lot of poultry, whether it be turkey or chickens, are grown in South Carolina. That's our number one ag commodity that comes out of there. We're seeing a lot of development, kind of where I grew up in Orangeburg, that whole I-26 corridor between Orangeburg and Charleston now is just heavily developed. What was once pine forest is now homes, and so we're seeing a continual growth and loss of farmland, you know, as a result, and then some of the alternative land uses that are kicking up as a result of it. So we're every year we seem to lose acres as a result of that. But as far as opportunities go, I think there's a ton of opportunity. We've got a new peanut facility that has come live in Santee, South Carolina. So a lot of growers for the first time are growing peanuts now in their operations that are close by there. You've got a lot of conservation opportunities, whether it be conservation easements or potential, you know, wetland mitigation, with DOT continuing to expand and redo a lot of roads through South Carolina. So there's a ton of opportunities that are coming on board out there. So just like Bill said too, scale can be a bit of a problem throughout the Carolinas. I think it's a great opportunity though for an investor who's looking to maybe buy smaller tracts that are spread out and
assemble them together,
kind of have the aggregation based type approach to it, and really diversify then what you could have potentially in a grower out there, because we've got a lot of specialty crops, especially in the PD region of the state, kind of where I live. You know, we got a lot of greens and a lot of sweet potatoes and a lot of other smaller crops like that, but you know, you could really make a nice portfolio.
Yeah, it does seem like an opportunity if, you know, overall tracts are generally a little bit smaller for somebody to come in and assemble several of them together.
And our land values are not to the place where they're, even though they've gone up considerably since COVID, it's not a huge cost. You know, if we can find good tracts that have got good tenants where lease rates still have room for upward mobility in that, you can really get to some pretty good cap rates and ROIs on some of them.
Right. What about the different regions of? We'll start with South Carolina. You mentioned the PD region, kind of as you move west. Talk a little bit about the different regions of the state and what those states are known for, whether it's from an ag perspective or recreation perspective.
Sure. So let's just kind of go work our way up and come back down.
Okay.
So if you go to the upper part of the state, aptly named the upstate of South Carolina.
That one's easy to understand.
Yeah, that one pretty much, you know.
Not sure about PD. That's it then.
Yeah, it doesn't require much thinking on that one. But so you've got, you know, a area that's really, you know, kind of hillier. At the further you go up towards North Carolina mountains, you know, topography changes.
So that's basically from Greenville, Spartanburg-ish.
Kind of wrapping around, kind of Cherokee, Spartanburg, Greenville, Anderson, Oconee.
Yep.
Those areas that kind of touch that rim. North Carolina, you're going to get further you go, you're going to get into the mountain areas, kind of the Table Rock.
Drove through there last week.
Yeah, you sure did. You know, you'll get through those areas that are going to be, you know, a lot more hillier, a lot more trees, some pine, loblolly pine, and hardwoods of various different species are going to be there. Then as you kind of go a little further down the lower part of the upstate region, you're going to have more pine, a few row crops mixed in, not much. Some real heavy clay soils in that area, also a little rocky, but also a lot of pasture land in that part of the world. Then you kind of go through the strip, about through the middle of the state, called the Sand Hills. Really going to be really sandy soils, deep sand, just like Florida, all through there. So you're going to get a variety of stuff there, from pastures to a lot of peaches, kind of over around Aiken County, kind of Edgefield. Yeah, there's Gaffney. That's kind of going back north.
Okay, yeah.
We're going back north I-85 corridor over there. But yeah, a lot of peaches grown kind of over that part of the world. Again, pastures, some trees, some row crops, some specialty crops in that area. Then you kind of move a little further south, kind of lower part, kind of center would be about Walterboro, the low country, kind of where all the plantations are. I would include Orangeburg County, where I grew up, in that kind of Midlands, low country area, you're going to be real heavy to your row crops in that area. Then kind of what you said,
some recreation there as well.
There's recreation scattered throughout all of them.
Yeah.
Throughout.
Right.
South Carolina's a big hunting state. There's going to be recreational properties everywhere. Then kind of going over towards the PD region, the one that kind of interestingly named, as everybody calls it, the Great PD River, Little PD River kind of flow through those areas, and so named for those. But that's kind of the heart of row crop country for South Carolina. You'll see a lot of center pivot irrigation that is out there, a lot of real heavy to traditional row crops, corn, cotton, peanuts, wheat. You'll see a little bit of grain sorghum that gets thrown in every so often, and then some specialty crops in those areas as well. Tobacco is still grown, flue-cured tobacco, versus what's the other varieties of tobacco that are grown more in North Carolina, again, the Piedmont regions. But yeah, so you got a diverse range of crops and everything grown in that side.
Yeah,
that side
absolutely.
of the state, and yeah, really a lot of recreational tracks over on that side too.
Okay. Well, what about North Carolina, guys? I mean, I know North Carolina's got mountains and beaches and everything in between, and so you guys cover a wide territory. Tell us a little bit about the different regions of North Carolina.
Yeah, Kenneth, you're out east, so we want to work east to west if you want to lead off kind of your neck of the woods.
Yep. I'll start off in the east. North Carolina, you kind of get 3 states in one with the different regions, but here down east, I'm on the verge of what we call the Blacklands. You go from basically Highway 17 back east. You got the big open farm grounds, and it's corn, soybeans, and then you get your vegetables. They do a lot of planting Matamesquite sweet onions and potatoes, and certain areas plant sage and string beans. So you get a diverse mix. And of course, we got corn, cotton, and peanuts. And once you get west of where I am, you get your smaller tracts, and you get back into Bill and back west. So Bill, if you want to take care of those. Yeah.
It's as you get towards 95, it's going to get rockier, and it sort of transitions as you get to Raleigh to the west to what they call the Piedmont region. And the story of the Raleigh region right now is growth, just land coming out of production, whether it's timber or ag, going into development. Still a lot of vibrant farming regions in this area, and then you head west, you get into the rolling hills of the Piedmont that leads you into Charlotte. West of there is the mountain region, similar to South Carolina, same track there, and interesting stuff going on out there. The world's largest high-grade quartz mine is in Spruce Pine, North Carolina, out there west. And but as Kenneth was discussing, it's we're focused on his region, sort of where the big tracks are now, from kind of east part of the state. When people think east of Raleigh, they typically think of the Outer Banks, which is a very thin strip of barrier islands. But then, west of there, you have the Albemarle Sound to the north, Pamlico to the south, and we're focused west of those two water sounds in that huge region. So that's a general overview.
What are the kind of biggest opportunities at the moment, and then the biggest threats kind of in the Carolinas? I mean, we all know about commodity pricing and things like that, but specific to these regions, what do you guys see as some of the big opportunities, and then potential weaknesses or threats?
Yeah, right now, everybody that I talk to, whether it's, lenders, I've spoke to a few this week, or growers, people are waiting on the sidelines to make big moves right now. They're expecting the tariff trade situation to level off by the fall. They're expecting interest rates to come down by the fall. And I think that's not unique to the Carolinas. That's kind of everywhere, right? So whether it's the investment community looking to buy land in North Carolina, or growers and lenders looking to expand and grow business in ag and timber, there's a bit of a holding pattern. People are embracing what the administration's doing, so they've got some patience, and they, for the most part, believe that we're on the right track, but there's going to be some short-term pain. So that's kind of the short-term risk or threat that folks are dealing with, that we're seeing. some of the opportunities that, similar to the rest of the Southeast, North Carolina's got over 764 solar installations, commercial grade. So that's number 4 in the country. So when you look at the size of North Carolina, that's pretty substantial. That has been leveling out the past couple of years. And again, I think the current administration, probably not as keen on that industry as the prior administration. So we'll expect that not to grow at the rapid pace that it has in the past, but it's certainly pretty robust and continues to be so. So, but then, just getting back to the growth, having 400,000 people move here annually, you got to build the houses. And we were chatting earlier before the podcast about Disney is putting in a 4,000 unit planned community west of Raleigh in the area of Pittsboro called Asteria, the first of its kind. And it was typical Disney fashion where it was very top secret until the last moment when they, had to announce what they were doing. So exciting projects like that. In the Raleigh area, you've got the 3 big universities and then several other universities, and then tech, biotech up in Greensboro. You've got a lot of aerospace. A lot of the new sort of innovative aerospace companies are building massive plants up there. So the opportunity just lies in both the number of folks moving here and the number of businesses pouring capital into the state. And the threats, again, sort of macro threats that we think are short term. So.
I think another threat to kind of throw out there too, Bill, is, we're 2 years behind on a new farm bill. We've kind of kicked the can down the road, and some of those commodity programs right now with the prices of where they are, and the way the weather has shaked out the past few years, had there not been some disaster programs, we could be really in, some farmers could be really in some rough shape, had there not been some of these pop-up programs, as I call them, to come on board. So, some of the programs, like I said, have kind of outlived their timing as far as where the markets are. So we're really kind of needing a new farm bill to come in play to really help kind of level out some of those different needs that are in there, because it would be strongly needed if 25 turns into what 24 was.
Right. I feel like we've been talking farm bill stuff for a while.
Ages.
Yeah, correct.
Ages. It just, and it feels like lately you just haven't seen anything else from it. And so it's kind of just
everything else has gotten all the attention.
Exactly. This is just it's kind of almost like died a quick death all of a sudden. So I'd be curious to see, the current farm bill runs out September 30th. So, as quickly as this year's gotten to July, September will be here even before we can blink our eyes, it feels like. Yep. So
now maybe that some of these other things are kind of in the rearview mirror.
It'll be really curious to see. I'm going to be really focused looking on it to just see kind of how all that moves and kind of where does that wind up at, kind of in the priority list of Congress.
You're going to be our dedicated correspondent on it as we move forward, and keeping the audience up to speed as things progress with it. So, well, guys, that's really all I have. I just really wanted this to be an introduction of you all, introduction to the Carolina markets, some of the things that we're going to be providing to landowners there and across the Southeast, as we've talked about. So thank you guys so much for joining us today, and we'll do it again here soon.
All right. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to In Our Expert Opinion Real Estate Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you never miss any of our upcoming episodes. For more on land and commercial real estate, please connect with us at saundersrealestate.com.